Today we are talking about two things that you have got to stop doing. They literally make us cringe. I'm Jen Lormond, exercise physiologist.
I'm Christina Walsh, licensed physical therapist. And if you have been hanging out with us here for any amount of time, you already know one of those things is Kegels. You've got to stop the Kegels. They're not your friend. We've done plenty of other shows on that. That is not the focus today, but the focus today is very much related to that. And equally as important that you stop doing these two other things. What are those
And the
things?
first thing is bracing through your rib cage and your abdominals. So many of the women that we work with have a separation of their abdominal muscles, or they feel weak through their core, or maybe they've been told, okay, bring the rib cage down and exhale and pull all that in
And hold it there.
And hold it and feel that connection. So women want to feel connected, and you end up walking around a good bit of the time, or every time you sit, trying to brace and clamp your rib cage down. What that is doing is creating a couple of things. It's creating a lot of downward pressure, which is not good for your pelvic floor. We've talked about that ad nauseum, and we teach diaphragmatic breath work, which if you haven't already, go into our bio and opt into our 90-90, where we can teach you the breath work in that position. But it's teaching the rib cage and the diaphragm to lock down, creating downward negative pressure. And it also sets up this pattern where your body feels like that's what it's supposed to do. And that is going to be counterintuitive to actually how the body works.
Yeah, it's causing over tightening, which also equates to weakness. An over tight muscle is a weak muscle. It creates that pattern and teaches your muscle to get stuck in an over tight, weak spot with a limited range of motion available to it. I love, Jen, you've equated this to like a rubber band situation.
Yes.
That resonates for me. I hope this connects with you, where if you imagine like you stuck a rubber band in the freezer and it's like in this shortened one position, and then you try to do like flick it across the room at your friend or your kid. and it's going to either break because it's like gotten tight and brittle in that one spot. And it also surely won't flick it as far. You're going to miss your target. And you've taught your muscle to function like that poor decrepit little frozen rubber band when you constantly brace and hold. And then you try to go do a body pump class or do some lifting to get strong because you're like, okay, I really want to feel these muscles work again, but you've taught them to guard and get stuck in that over tight and weak position. Then what happens when you try to go do those advanced exercises?
So you end up with an injury essentially, or just more pain because that muscle has really lost that contractile strength, meaning it is simply incapable of doing the strength work or taking on those power moves. And so what happens is it needs to call upon other muscle groups that come in, try to do some of the work, but essentially that's only going to happen for so long before
something's got to give.
Something's going to give.
There's going to be that proverbial needle that's, the haystack's going to crumble, and it's going to happen at some point when you're trying to progress something. You're like, I am ready. I'm ready to get back to feeling strong in my body again. But you've set yourself up, unfortunately, to not be able to do that without injury. And many women feel it in overuse of hip flexors. They sprain or strain their back or their SI joints. And that's because you've accidentally taught your core to function in this very limited and restricted capacity, so that when you try to push things and exercise normally again, it goes, oh, wait, I can't handle this. And something breaks down, and you're going to feel that as pain, injury, chronic tightness in somewhere around that area.
Well, and we want to use these muscles in the way that they are meant to be used functionally. We are not meant to be locked down and contracted for long periods of time. That isn't what our body is designed to do. So that is part of why we are so passionate about what we teach with those functional ranges of motion and that subconscious activation, so that you're not having to think as you're sitting and driving, oh, my back starts hurting, let me brace and try to get my abdominals on board. We've got enough to worry about. Let's take this off the plate.
Better way. We can teach our bodies to function well with the core again without bracing and guarding.
Yes.
And the other thing we want to,
so that was number one. Number two,
stop tucking your tail.
Yeah.
And some of you, unfortunately, have been actually taught this by other healthcare providers, even other therapists. And I want to tell you, beg you to please stop. And some of you have accidentally learned how to do this because, again, like Jen said, with the bracing of your abdominals, you have lost touch with your core and you want that back, and you're trying to figure out how to feel that again.
Or when you're doing planks and things, you're feeling it in your low back. So you're trying to counter that with that tail tuck.
Yes. And so you're trying again to protect your body and to get the right things, feeling it again in your core. So you're going after a goal, but you're going after it in a way that's only going to end up hurting you in the end. Tucking that tail, I mean, you can literally put your hand on your low back across your spine, tuck that tail and feel all those lumbar vertebrae move and shear and shift. And that causes other things to go wrong. It sets up a chain of events that sets you up for injury. And it puts pressure on those lumbar discs and flexion. That flexion of that lumbar spine is a disc compressing position. We all know we don't want that. It also leads to hip flexor overuse, or maybe you're tucking your tail because your hip flexors are already tight and you're trying to feel your core again. We get it. We understand why you're doing these things. We're asking you to stop because they are not serving you. They're not accomplishing what you'd like to accomplish by doing these things. They're setting you up for more injury and more pain.
Yes, well said. So please ask us all the questions. If this was shocking or alarming to you, or you're trying to figure out, okay, you've identified that you're doing these things and you'd like some more specific help, feel free to reach out to us. Hello@Tighten Your Tinkler. Would love to answer your questions, or go ahead and follow us over on IG @Tighten Your Tinkler. Till next time.